Hello and welcome to a new episode of Pat's Chat. Today I have a really awesome guest, awesome CEO or CEO of three awesome companies, how he says himself, Rizal Aziz. Hi and welcome, Rizal. How are you today?
Hey, Patrick. Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. I'm actually quite excited and very, very happy to be able to do officially my own first interview on a podcast.
That's cool. Then I'm very honored I can be the first guy to interview. Also excited here. I think a lot to tell, explain. I know you're Malaysian. Maybe you tell me first where in Malaysia you're from.
Well, that's the thing. I it's very complicated because I was actually born in Newcastle, in the UK, because my parents were there. And it's a running joke. Anyone from the UK, they find out that I'm born in Newcastle, they immediately call me a Geordie. So Geordie are the guys who are the Northerners in England, and they are very close to the Scottish guys, so they're quite rough.
Okay.
But apparently they have their own dialect, which is very thick. Now I can't speak Geordie, and I can't really speak the English dialect really well because I was only there till about for I think 4 or 5-ish. Then I came back to Malaysia, and generally I grew up in Bandar Baru Bangi, so that's in Selangor. Then
Okay.
I went out, and I went all over the place.
Yeah, you went all over the place. Okay, interesting story, which I didn't know to discover that. You went all over the place. Namely, that means you study also. You have a Bachelor in Commerce and an MBA also in the Victoria University. So Australia was your next step outside of Malaysia.
Yeah, I like to take things very small, I guess. So when I was studying in Bandar Baru Bangi, I did my part of my elementary, junior high, and junior high. Then in high school, I went overseas. When I say overseas, don't think overseas outside the country. Actually, overseas to Penang for 2 years.
Okay.
Then I got offered to join the Australian Consortium of Higher Education. So that's a program where it's a matriculation program where they take students from Malaysia. You study for a few years here, and then you get sent overseas. But my time was 1998, so right smack at the economic crisis, and a whole bunch of people couldn't go. So luckily, my parents decided that studying overseas has its values, and that they wanted me to be independent. So they sent me to Australia, a beautiful city of Melbourne, and I spent a good 7 years there doing my degree and masters as well, back to back. It was the best time of my life,
Back
I
to
would
back.
say.
The study time. Many people say it's the best time, of course.
Exactly.
Nice.
Exactly.
So in Australia, not only you did study there, but also your first jobs you take in Australia. If I see that correctly,
Mm.
as a accountant, account manager, is that correct?
Yes. So, for when I wanna retrace back. So when I say it was an awesome time in Australia, partly because Australia has a very high minimum wage. So their per hour rate, is like at that time was about $12 per hour. And if you times the Malaysian ringgit, you times three, so it's about 36. And I loved it so much that on my final year, when I was doing my degree, I put all my classes in one day. And the rest of the days I worked. Of course, there's a limitation. You can only work for 20 hours a week, but we can always trick away, what is define what work is it when you sign the paper or you do that and so on. So when I was there, I think I was the richest student there because I was so cash rich. I was doing everything. I did part-time in accountancy. I did selling phone lines. I worked in restaurants. I picked berries. Went volunteered for the Olympic and also for tennis, the tennis open as well in Melbourne. You always have to do that one thing in your life where you tried it. And when I did all that, I realized that I really enjoyed the life in Australia so much, and I found my real passion. So even though I did accountancy for both my degree and my masters, I realized that the numbers were fun. were very cool to deal with. It's very exact. But I realized that, hey, people is what drive me. So I never actually stayed on for an accountancy role beyond, a year plus. I straight away moved out from that and did everything else you can under the sun, apart from accountancy. So that's the interesting part. Yeah.
Nice, nice. Okay, that was your passion, and you had another passion at that time that eventually led you to the next country. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah, Nihon. So that's Nippon or Japan. Yes, yes. I went to Japan after a good 7 years in Australia. Well, actually, at that time, I was my former partner was from Japan, so we went there. We went back. If you want to put it correctly, and literally jumped from one place to another. When I was leaving, I had three cars in Australia. I had three Honda cars. I'm a Honda fan at that time. So I had one classic Civic, one quite new Civic, and a Honda Prelude. And I was living the life. Then we decided to just give it all away and then went to Japan for another adventure. And I gave away all my cars to own a bicycle in Japan, because it's a whole completely different country. But then that gave me a different challenge because, even though I had so many experience under me, going to Japan means you're going to an alien location where no English is not predominantly used, and I was heading to Osaka. So it's not Tokyo.
Hmm.
Tokyo, a lot of the HQs are there, or
Yeah.
companies are there, and Osaka, even though it was the second biggest state or prefecture at that time, it wasn't so prominent. So it was quite hard. Then I realized the biggest industry in Japan for foreigners is language or education.
Yeah.
So that's why I went in
I
hard.
I just wanted to say I was living nearby Osaka in the
Oh,
99 around, yes. And for me, the most impressive or the biggest surprise when I relocated there is like no one speak English, right? I mean, at that time,
yes,
really, I mean, maybe some people in Tokyo would speak English, or in Osaka, and
yes.
especially like a little bit outside, no one would speak like English at all. And
Where was
so
that?
where the place was called Tenri. So it's like
Ah,
it's
Tendi.
nearby Nara, yeah, nearby Nara.
Yes,
That's
yes,
the
yes,
previous capital of Japan, right? So nearby
yes.
Nara, which is a very interesting place because there's so many historical sites there and a lot of culture also.
Oh,
Quite
Nara.
impressive, yeah. Well, you
I
know
miss
Nara,
I
right?
miss Nara. I miss Nara very much. And Tendi has a nice international school and university, if I'm not mistaken, there
Yeah,
around
yeah.
there. Oh, so
I love
beautiful.
Nara
Nara
too. I
was
mean,
yeah.
I took my bicycle mostly from Tender to Nara. I don't remember. It's
Mhm.
like maybe 20 kilometers or 15 kilometers. So mostly weekend I spent
Wow.
there. So nice place. But let's go back to the language thing because that was, as you said, that was like what you ventured into. That was your next job, right? The language and maybe can you let us know what exactly you did and what
Okay.
yeah.
This one is interesting. So I did apply for a few jobs, and then whilst applying, I realized that without a strong grasp of Japanese, I won't be able to have an advantage, and I can't demand the top job that I want. So the first 4 months, right, I was really, really busy because I was learning at schools because I wanted to save money. I joined volunteer schools in the evening. So in Japan, the city councils are very amazing and efficient. They got assimilation programs, language program for free, so anybody comes and teach it. So I was attending classes in the evening and on a day-to-day basis, and then I would set myself in part-time jobs here and there just to meet people and get to know the locals. So in the morning, I was giving out flyers at the train stations. In the afternoon, I had this friend or the family who owns an Indian restaurant and wanted to hire someone who can serve. So I did that as well. The interview was very funny because he asked, "Do you
Nice.
speak any Japanese?" I said, "No, I don't." "Okay, you're good for the job. We learn it." Yes.
Nice.
And then late at night, I will work in the hotel. Um, just doing room cleaning also. So we did that for about 2.5 months. And what happened was, because I was thrown into the deep end, I managed to pick up the language in within less than 6 months. And that's when I mentioned just now, the language or the education industry in Japan is huge, especially in teaching English. The amount of money people spend on learning on English, I would dare say, as much as the amount of money you spend on a degree.
Wow.
So they
Yeah.
got lots of disposable income, and they love to be able to learn a language from a foreigner, for any language, but of course, predominantly is English.
Mhm.
So I went in, and they realized that, I didn't really have a strong accent. I really had a very basic accent. It was very understandable. I came from a professional background, and I had some management capability. So they got me to do some teaching first. Then within the space of 2 years, I was promoted from an instructor to a trainer, from a trainer to an assistant manager. And then suddenly have something, one boss went away. I went up to lead the foreign team over there. So year on year, I was, recruiting people from all over the world coming to Japan to teach. And the company itself had about 300 plus schools, small
Oh.
schools and shop
Mhm.
lots and so on across Japan. And they had two international schools. And they also supply instructors to companies, universities, and whatnot. So the roster would be about, 500 plus foreigners coming in from all over the world, teaching English.
Wow.
So big
Wow.
money, big
Big,
money.
big money. Nevertheless, big money. You decided, like after what, 6, 7 years Australia, 6, 7 years in Japan, you decided to go back to Malaysia after so long time. Like, what was the trigger for that? And also, how did for you like the country change after you were not there for like 14 years?
Yes, before I answer that 14 years I was away, I was only back in Malaysia for 13 days because I flew back from
Wow.
Australia, landed here, did a
Yeah.
few things and left. So my parents were quite happy. They said, "Rizal, do whatever you want." So I'm very thankful for that, for them, for giving me that opportunity to just do what I want. So close to the 14th year when I was in Japan, there's this thing, Talent Corp was, talking about the returning expert program, and I really liked it. I love the concept. That's the key word.
Mhm.
I love the concept. Whether the concept worked or did they do anything about it, that's a different story. So the whole
Yeah.
idea was to bring professionals back into
Mhm.
Malaysia and then help influence, uplift, and upskill the workforce locally. So I love the concept. So I applied for it and I got it. And I felt that it was time for me to move back. And it was the toughest decision because, rightly so, when you ask that question, how was it to be after living away for so long and you suddenly want to make that move back? Whoa, people talk about culture shocks. Culture shocks is never about when you're going somewhere. It's when you return to be able to assimilate.
Wow.
So it was the
Yeah.
toughest, first year of my life when I came back
Mhm.
here to Malaysia, coming from Australia, where it's very westernized, and then Japan, systematic, very fast, to the beautiful, smelly, stinky, noisy, rude people in Malaysia. But I always tell people that that's the beauty of Malaysia, because you come back, you get all that, it's very messy. People are on the way for 1 2 hours. They
Yeah.
come to work late, and the people take things very chill. Governments all over the place, but hey, it's home and I love it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah. Yeah.
cannot find it anywhere. Yeah, that's
It
me.
is
I don't
different
know.
when you come
That's me.
home, yeah. But would you say it was more difficult? Was that what you just said? Like it was more difficult to come home than to go to Australia and even to Japan?
Yes, yes. So it's just it's reverse culture shock when you come back. It's
Reverse culture shock.
you
Yeah.
I came back with Air Asia and I landed in the LCCT. So that's before KLIA 2. So you imagine, from Kansai Airport, which is so beautiful, so
Mhm.
nice, very
Yeah.
clean. I landed
Yeah.
in LCC 2 because I wanted to save money, right? It was like a bus station, and I was like, oh my God, where am I? Where have I been? And I felt like I just left 14 years ago and came back. Nothing much really changed. But that was my first impression. My first
Yeah.
impression. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
over time, I realized that the country has moved so much more forward, and it has evolved. and I really, really thought that was the best decision that I made. And I really love my country, so many times more. I don't know. That's just
Beautiful.
me being patriotic. Yeah, but I can
Nice.
only feel that because I left. Yeah.
Of course, beautiful view. Yeah, once you left, you know what you're missing, right? That's what we say usually.
Yep. Yep.
You came back to Malaysia to become a general manager of a law firm. How did that fit, like in the past? What you had done, like becoming language teacher, accountant, even managing like
Yeah.
that language school. Then you become general
Yeah.
manager of a law firm.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I think it's serendipity or just luck or fortune. Everywhere I go, I wanted to find something that, could fit my personality, which is, people. I wanted to be able to deal with people. I'm not a process person. I'm not a policy person. If you can see, for my background, and when I was in Japan, I was already at a general manager level. So when I came back here, I wanted something where I can oversee the whole business operation. I like to be able to make an impact. When I come in, I want to be able to talk to people and motivate,
Hmm.
lead, and make sure that business implementation, gain traction. And whatever that we do, we can always improve. So when I came back, I applied for many jobs. I think I had about 30 plus interviews that I arranged after applying, and I did that because I wanted to see what's out there. So I
Mhm.
went from GLCs, SMEs, mid-sized firms, and whatnot. And then I met this law firm the first one, which is Wong and Partners, and I didn't know much about law firms because I'm never from that background. But then when I studied very closely, they're actually from Baker McKenzie, which is the biggest law firm in the world, in 77 offices in 49 countries, and I thought that, wow, this is where I want to be. And I love their vision. And I met the people, the toughest interview ever. And the longest wait till I got an offer from them. So I held back a lot of the offers because I kind of like that one and I got it. And the rest is history. It was 6 amazing years of working with high caliber people who are, at the top of the legal fraternity in the region, if not the world. Yeah.
Interesting, and it becomes even more interesting because like now we have like a very good overview of the past, of the past when you were employer all the time. And again, this podcast is about entrepreneurs and their journey. And we come to your
Yep.
entrepreneurship, which started only recently. I mean, you're very young in that term, entrepreneur. You started your companies this year and last year. And when I say companies, I mean you not only started one company, but you started three companies in total. We dig into that just in a moment, but maybe let me know first, like from being employed like for 15, 20 years almost, becoming an entrepreneur. What was your motivation for that? What changed your
Mm.
mindset in like now it's time to become start your own thing basically?
Yeah, thanks, Patrick. That was actually something that always looms in my mind. So after I joined Wong and Partners, and I left after 6 years, and I joined another law firm, which is a regional Southeast Asian focus regional firm called Raja and Tan Asia, and it's much smaller. And they have 10 offices across the region, and they wanted someone of my ability and experience to be able to not only manage the local office, but support in the shared services center, which is outsourcing within the network, and also assist with the learning and development plans for the region. So when I came in, from a very rigid and large, complex matrix law firm like Baker McKenzie, you want to implement things, you need to get 4 or 5 approvals. When I went to Raja and Tan,
Mm.
I'm dealing directly with the big boss,
Yeah,
the,
yeah.
the chairman. And then
Mhm.
he goes, Rizal, whatever you want to do, propose. Whatever you want to say, propose. Just say. And then everything that I say, a lot of it, they like it, they approve it, and they support. And that really got me. As like, wow, lawyers or law firms, I always thought they're very rigid, but actually no, they're like entrepreneurs, and they really got me thinking that if these guys, at the forefront of what they do, they're very good. what they do, but they're also thinking innovatively. Why can't I do the same myself? So I fell in love with learning and development. So that was the catalyst, the initial catalyst that got me thinking that, hey, maybe, I've been away for quite a long time. I could probably do something about my knowledge and then share it with people. So initially it was just, going on speaking engagement for free. But now I put myself in the market as someone who can deliver training, who can become a keynote speaker, and also help those graduates, or for people who are juniors, or those who are in the management level who want to step up, learn all those skills from me. And I'm not stingy when it comes to that kind of stuff. I really go for it. So because of that, I decided to, 8 months in advance, I thought about it, and I saved all the money that I have, and then started off the company. And I realized, as you know, as I mentioned, I cannot sit still. And I met a few people along the way. And I think my skills has always been identifying talents. And I met, some of the guys who formed Tech Rabbit, which is my digital arm. And then there's Yeah Studio, my creative studio.
Hmm.
So that's where it just all went boom. These are all small business projects that later on would become big self-sustaining projects. And then they will change to businesses.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, okay. You obviously cannot stand still with the three companies. Red Pact Asia is one where you see your cap.
Yeah. Thank
Very
you.
nice. That one is focusing on management consulting, right, and training,
Yep.
as you mentioned.
Yep.
And you have the Tech Rarebit, social media
Yep.
marketing, and the Studio. That is
Yeah.
for
Yeah. Yeah.
oh, that is for video and audio, maybe also podcast. What are you doing with Studio? What is this about?
Okay, for Yeah Studio is made up of two award-winning musicians and producers. They've been in the industry for 20 years. They've been performing in Asia, in the United States. They travel around the world and perform. And I got two award-winning creative visuals who also one of them is tied into a TV station, and another one is working directly with us at the moment. So we got together and we had a few ideas, and they why I came into the picture was because, hey, I said to them, you guys are doing this, this is very cool. I've got knowledge about how the education for children, especially early childhood education, because of my experience in Japan. And I told them that in Japan you got songs, you got things for kids, if you go to Japan, kids songs cover everything that the kid can see and touch. You got a song to brush your teeth, you got a song to wake up, you got a song to shower, you got a song to have breakfast, you got a song to prepare for lunch, you got a song for lunch. So it helps, it helps develops the kid's mind, the children's mind. So
Hmm.
there's nothing
Yeah.
here in Malaysia. And that's why when we sat down and talked about it, wham bam, we've got 40 songs ready, and it's done in a way where it can be translated into any languages. So it could be
Okay.
done in
Yeah.
English, it could be done in Malay,
Hmm.
Indonesian, Korean, and Japanese and Chinese. So we got all these versions already, and we're just slowly building up our database. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. So anyone want to record songs can come to your studio. Did I get that right?
Yes. So even though we are focusing on digital animation and production,
Uh huh.
we do have capability to do recording. So it is a new product that we're having. So
Yeah.
we create audio signatures or synchro. I think it's called synchro branding,
Hmm.
where people can create their own jingle, their own brand jingle, or their brand
Okay.
song. So we've had two already, and we're taking baby steps because initially the focus on that was in that digital animation.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think somewhere around next month we will definitely go and push that service out to people, because I think people now love visibility and personal branding. And what better way to make it more spicier if you do have a kick-ass song backing you as a brand?
Very nice, very nice. I see you're also very skilled in marketing. The tech rabbit is more on the social marketing, social media marketing. But let me ask you another question. Like before, I ask you, like, okay, you had to start three companies, but how do you see? Do you see currently like more of a leverage effect that you can use resources across the three companies, or you see more like it's also a challenge, right, to manage three different companies like in parallel?
It is definitely a challenge. It's no joke. It's not easy. And then for me, in the past 8 years when I was in the law firm, I was always double or triple or quadruple hatting. I would have a local role, a regional role, contribute to a global initiative, and it's been the norm for me to be able to direct many, many teams. So as the CEO, all I need to make sure is that the structures are there, the business plans are there, and we keep track. And if you need to make adjustment, make sure there's buy-in and support, and everybody just go and push on that. So it is not easy. But I do know that if I only focus on one thing, I'll probably get bored. But the most important part is that if you know my hashtag, so my hashtag is called the incomplete leader, and it's what I truly believe is that nobody is complete, and if you know yourself very well, you can see areas where you have weaknesses, and you find either a way to improve yourself, or you get people to fill in that gap and do assist you on that. So that's
Mm,
how all these companies come in, because these companies are, they all self support each other. It's a small ecosystem. So you're right. The resources do, go in that small world, and they help each other. But we try to
mhm,
keep it separate. They actually build each other, so that there's nothing like, taking advantage or misusing each other's capability.
mm, yeah,
But we do sit in together and discuss and make sure that all three companies move forward together. And
it's
so
nice.
far, it's so good, but tough. But I love it.
Stuff, yeah. Okay. And you
Yeah.
just mentioned the hashtag, the incomplete leader. I quickly wanted to touch on that because you had to come up with something like that first. Where do you see, or what was your experience for yourself when you thought like, wow, this is something you really struggled with, that made you an incomplete leader? That was something you had to learn first, because or learn from the failures before. What is the one or two things that you can remember that made you
Wow.
now a more complete leader?
No, we'll never be complete. That's the
I'm more
thing. We will
complete. I'm
never be
more
complete.
complete.
More complete. Yeah. Yeah. So the incomplete leader came up recently because I realized that you will never be able to please everyone. And when you are in a leadership role, people have certain expectations of you. And if you, as a leader, you think that because you are in that position, you have absolute power, you're wrong. And I believe that when you are in power, you need to be completely aware of who you are and how you impact people. And then you will have some areas that, may not gel, may not be appreciated, or some areas that, you don't do because it's not something that you're used to, or some value that you don't believe in. So this all came about, especially when I was in Japan. I learned the fact that in Japan, a lot of the focus was on how long you've been working there, and whether you know certain people within the company to be able to get things done. And I realized I didn't have that language ability to that extent to be able to communicate with some of the big bosses. But I made sure that I have a good network, and I used my vulnerability and also where I'm weak at. And I started working with different people who can get what I want. So it was recognizing my weakness. And another one was an experience that I had years ago when I was in junior high school. I was always I'm quite noisy, and I'm always an attention seeker. I'm an extrovert. What to do? So I was nominated to become the sports team lead when I was in year 11, year 10. No, sorry, year 9. So I was quite young, and then here I am, suddenly being nominated to become a sports leader, for which includes the year 10 and year 11. and they asked me to come, and they were all clapping. Hey, great, Rizal, you're going to be the team sport. And I'm so excited. The next day we had a team meeting, and then here I am with the microphone trying to brief the team and trying to get them excited. When I spoke, there was no reaction because I didn't have the respect from the seniors above me. They thought that, who is this young guy? Who's this wannabe who wants to be there? I don't even know him. I know him because he's loud. He likes to be on stage. He's always the MC. But is he really a good leader? And that taught me that you can in later years, I realized that that experience taught me that you you always think that you are somewhere, but in the reality you do have areas that you just don't have strength in, or you're not aware about. So the incomplete leader is about knowing your incompleteness.
Nice. Yeah. Okay. I like that story. The Incomplete Leader. You announced a book for this year coming out. Will that be the title, or is it at least connected to that topic?
It is absolutely going to be the title, man. That's like my handle.
Okay.
So the incomplete leader. So it will be, there will be some additional words. I probably put the incomplete leader's journey, or the journey of the incomplete leader. Yes, it's a book. Thank you for mentioning it. It's a book that I'm writing. So I'm 75% there. I never realized the difficulty in writing a book. It sounds easy, but actually, you just ramble on and write. When you read it later, it's like, oh dear, there's so much work that needs to be done. But the messaging that I wanted to share with people is that whatever issues that you face in life, or especially at work, when either you are in a leadership position, or you are going to be a leader, or you are a reluctant leader, I just want to voice out in there my experience that you can relate to. And you also learn that being a leader is not about the title. Is where the heart is where your values are and your passion. And it's just some very simple stories that can connect to my experience, and I hope that people can learn through it, and then they start to be able to sense their own incompleteness. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. No one is complete. No one is ready for leadership. You just need to learn constantly, uh, find ways to improve, and then realize that you have weaknesses that you need to work on.
Beautiful words, I have to say. I think it's also a very, very beautiful closing sentence or sentences for our chat. I really loved it.
Yay.
Thank you so much, Rizal, for your time, for sharing your journey, your success story, your challenges that you had, and especially the journey throughout the world that you made. Thank you so much for that.
No worries. Thank you, Patrick. I really appreciate the opportunity, and it's great talking to you.
Your first podcast session. Congrats! And again, I'm very honored you were on my small podcast for the first time. Thanks for watching and listening to the episode. I hope you liked it. And then I see you next week for another episode of Pat's Chat. Thanks. Have a great day.